Alyssa Mercante is probably one of the most evil witches in gaming journalism today. She literally has zero gaming journalism integrity, and she should not be taken seriously at all. Her latest exploit, she misrepresented Crytivo CEO Alex Koshlekov during an interview where he talked about his games. Now, not too long ago, there was a game called Farm Folks made by Crytivo where they made a tweet asking about jiggle physics of the female breast in their games, and it caused quite a backlash for them to the point where woke Twitter went after them and they had to go and apologize. I think the tweet was kind of funny. I just think the perfect breast jiggle physics to me is actually option 90%. Take a look at Stellar Blade. The physics in that game were perfect. But yeah, this tweet set them off. And they made a second tweet saying, does anybody want to see what 150% looks like? All in good fun, but in this day and age, social media is full of all these little snowflakes that can't take jokes, especially if it's over-sexualized towards females for some reason. Go figure. After he got some backlash, though, from like all the DE&I consultancy agencies like Black Girl Gamers and all the little wokies, they deleted the tweets and issued an apology, which was probably the utmost cringe. Never apologize. Just delete it silently and move the fuck on. And even then, I would say don't delete it. But they made this right here saying that they would like to address a recent post where they came to asking their community for feedback and that their intent is always to connect and grow with their players. And it's clear that they really missed the mark on their recent community feedback post. So, yeah, okay, they caved in, they bent the knee, it backfired, and they made an ass out of themselves on both ends. They pissed off the wokies and they pissed off the anti-wokies. Well, shortly after this, he decided to make the mistake of his life by doing an interview with Alyssa Mercante from Kotaku. We've covered her on this channel. She's a complete psychopath. She's unhinged. She runs cover for companies like Sweet Baby Inc. She hates straight male gamers. She has me blocked. She's a complete psycho job. Completely. Now, supposedly they had an hour-long interview, but he was misrepresented by her. She intentionally manipulated the situation because English isn't Mr. Alex's first language. So there's a little bit of translation being lost here. But apparently he appeared to say you have to be a very poor kind of person to kind of sexualize this. Like the internet is full of sex right now. There's some crazy things you could find. If you're having problems with our characters, like look for help. Maybe go and date a woman or something like that, because this is not our goal. We don't want to attract people that are attracted to only these body parts. And supposedly he indicated that they don't want certain nasty people to play their game, which all falls in line with their narrative that Alyssa Mercante and Jessica Cogswell and people like Kotaku want to put. They want toxic, quote-unquote, gamers to not be in any of these games. They want a perfect little safe space for little echo chamber snowflakes to play all these games. Was the tweet with the jiggle physics professional? No, not exactly, but remember in the 90s when companies wouldn't care if stuff was sexualized in its advertisements? Do you have GamePro magazines where Super Nintendo ads kind of had sexual innuendos in them? I remember in the 90s, everything was great. Everybody enjoyed their media. Nobody got offended. But this day and age, a dumb tweet asking about boob physics was the end of the world and caused Alyssa Mercante to use this guy for her advantage in an interview. So after this interview happened, he basically came out and said that she used him incorrectly. And this was because backlash happened at this interview where people were saying that the low info CEO implies that gamers who won't cave to the censorship mob, cancel pigs, and corrupt journals are incels. Mercante played him and now is dragging him for the sucker he is on her handle. And you can see he says that this is not what they implied and it's misrepresented here. They meant that if you're against natural breast movement, the statement applies to you. We don't want exaggerations, and at the same time, we would love to have natural, elegant motion in our characters' bodies. So he's going on to say that she misrepresented him. And he's going out and clarifying what was really happening, which is good on him. I'm glad we're seeing a video game company stand up to a bully like Alyssa Mercante. And you can see he's answering tweets where somebody says, "You're stuck in a tough spot. I really think it would have been beneficial for you guys to take a step back and breathe before even responding to this controversy. Because of it, it was my first time of hearing your game, and I was interested in playing." And he said, "My comment was actually directed towards the people who have issues with natural body motion in our game, not towards the people who appreciate it. I think it was intentionally misrepresented." Yeah, so I wouldn't put it past Alyssa Mercante to take advantage of anything. You've seen her try to reach out to people. Not too long ago, she was actually trying to reach out to Melanie Mack, who politely declined her invite to interview because she saw that she was actually acting in bad faith. And just even looking at this situation, you can see that's how she operates. If you interview with her, she's going to twist anything to try to fit into her narrative and spin it. She would never publish what he originally intended. We're saying if you're against women's body motions and stuff, that you need help. She would never, ever go against the grain. And you can see Don Torrey says, "Why didn't you say this instead of telling people to look for help and to date a woman?" And Alex Koshlekov says, "It might be because of limited English vocabulary, and I thought I expressed myself clearly. I feel like it's misrepresented intentionally." Now, of course, Alyssa Mercante is scouring the internet and looking for anything that involves her name. Even if she has you blocked, she's stalking. And she replied saying that she said this to him during our interview, but the farm folk CEO's attempts to not be political are very naive in the current climate. His replies are very telling. You got pulled into a culture war because you don't have a CM who knew that titty physics wasn't the move, chief. Then you apologize. Then the titty physics gooners got mad that you apologized, and then I interviewed you. Them's the breaks. So she's basically saying tough shit, and she's gloating at him. She used him like a pawn, 110%. And Koshlekov took issue with this and said that she was misrepresented it, and he published their DMs. All of the DMs. And you could see that he says, "You've been using me as a tool against your nemesis, and I'm not sure if it was intentional or accidental. You misrepresented a few of my points. In our dialogue, you agreed that it's all cool to have women's breast movement in games. You reached me for clarification yourself and then refused to share it with your readers on X." He's calling her out, saying you refused to show your statement in our conversation on X, that you're refusing, you're misrepresenting me, you're not showing people the truth. So he says, "I strongly believe that this sentence was taken out of context to support a specific narrative and goal. I believe it's part of a larger context where you and I agreed that having a breast physics in the game is acceptable. The quote that you shared was my response to people that are offended by the breast movement in the game. I'm clarifying what I meant since it seems it was taken out of a bigger context, and I probably didn't choose the best words to express it. I didn't intend to hurt anyone or call names, but it's being interpreted this way now." And of course, Alyssa Mercante refuses to add the clarification or provide an update to her readers. And she basically tells him, "I am not a service. You do not get to dictate to me how I represent you. Goodbye." Wow. What rudeness from such a vile woman, who continues saying, "I'm not a PR person. You spoke to me for over an hour. The entire copy of our conversation was never going to be published in a piece. I maintain that your attempts to remain neutral are naive, as I told you, and I wish you luck." So she wants him to be part of the conversation. She's forcing him to pick a side. And if it's not her side, she's going to paint you like a villain. She basically misrepresented him on purpose in order to get a mob of one side or the other against him, which is really evil when you think about it. As a journalist, if somebody wants to retract statements, if somebody wants to clarify stuff, it's within your journalistic integrity to provide an update or a footnote on your article, letting people know that they clarified their statement on here. Instead, she refused to update her article that painted him in a bad light with what he really meant. And she said, "I am not a service." And she continues to laugh at him on the post. You can see she wrote LMAO with a screenshot that was basically made to continue to make him look bad. Mercante, she's a vile woman. She's nuts. I don't understand why people would even consider working with her, much less interviewing her. I don't want her anywhere near me if the time ever comes to where I get to like talk to her or be interviewed. I think people in the gaming industry need to stop taking her serious. I don't think any video game developer or publisher or company or whatever, anybody in the gaming industry needs to stop taking her serious at all at this point. She cannot be trusted. She's more concerned with being a political activist than actually being a gaming journalist. She has zero integrity, and she misrepresented this guy and used him like a pawn. A very sad thing to take a look at and see, but lesson learned, I'm sure, on his side. Hopefully, other people decide that they don't want to fuck with her because she might do this to them. So, what a weird thing to have drama over. Boob physics in a game? Is that where we're really going with video games?